Join us at the Nats Chat Hangout at Walters on Wednesday, August 6th. We'll get started at 5 p.m. prior to the game against the Athletics. Come share your early thoughts on the Mike DeBartolo era.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Not all meals are created equal. For instance, breakfast has the spicy egg McMuffin for a limited time, and lunch doesn't. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Swinging a line drive right center. That's a base hit. Rounding third is Yelich. He's coming home. Throw by Lyle toward third. Will hold the other runner, Collins, at second as Blake Perkins delivers the third consecutive RBI single for the Brewers. 6 batters into the game. It's Milwaukee 3 and Washington 0. Next delivery is on the way. Swinging a line drive, one hop. Handled by Vaughn on the dirt. Gets up, throws to the pitcher, Mears covering. And the Brewers have won this game. A 1-2-3 inning for Nick Mears. And Milwaukee has taken the first 2 games of this series. They've won all 5 meetings between the 2 clubs this year. They hand the Nationals a 4th consecutive loss.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. My usual co-host, MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. He is off for this installment of the podcast, but I'm joined by the owner and executive producer of the podcast, Tim Shovers. And the Nationals, they now find themselves at a new low point in MLB's 2025 regular season at 22 games below 500. 44-66 is the record. This off an 8-2 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Brewers now are an MLB best 66-44, mirror opposites of the Nats. The Nats are 44-66. The Brewers are 66-44. Saturday was August 2nd, 2025, the 3-year anniversary of the Nats trading outfielder Juan Soto and first baseman Josh Bell to the San Diego Padres on what was 2022 MLB trade deadline day. A monumental trade, of course. Here we are 3 years later, and it's a funny thing. The trade was a good trade for the Nats. I think at this point we could say that. That was a good trade made by the Nats, but the team remains in a not-so-good place. If you have never given this podcast a 5-star rating and or have never written a nice review of the podcast, please consider doing so. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. And if you've already rated and reviewed this podcast, we say thank you. So, Tim, this Wednesday, August 6th, you're going to be conducting another Nats Chat Hangout at the home base of the Nats Chat podcast, Walters, which is right near Nationals Park. What kind of conversation are you anticipating this Wednesday evening at this latest Nats Chat Hangout? I'm a little afraid to hear the answer, but go ahead.
There's going to be a lot of negativity, Al. All right, a lot of cynicism, a lot of well-founded negativity. It's going to be a bit of a therapy session, but I'm hoping that some who show up want to get into the nitty-gritty of a Mike DeBartolo report card after what was, upon review, a very busy first 3 weeks on the job. Pick an interim manager, have a draft with the number 1 overall pick in a tricky financial situation to the draft approach, and then, sell off with limited assets at the trade deadline. So I think there's a lot to get into, Al, but overall, I think there's going to be a lot of complaining.
Well, for those of you who watched the great sitcom of the 1990s, Frasier, one of Frasier's lines that he used to use on his radio show in the show was, "I'm listening." And that's what we are here to do for you, the frustrated, aggravated Nationals fan. We're listening. We are here for you in these trying times. You have some great emails that we're going to be getting to in just a bit. But in terms of this game on Saturday, look, the Brewers are really good. The Nats are in the midst of a really rough season. We had another rough start for Jake Irvin, who was coming off a good outing. Now, he lately overall has not been pitching well, but remember, Irvin's last outing was good. The Nats 7-2 win at the Minnesota Twins last Sunday afternoon, July 27th. Irvin in that game, 2 runs in 7 innings. But Irvin in this game on Saturday was back to struggling. He allowed 5 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, 3 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. He threw 75 pitches, 46 strikes, 29 balls. And what stands out as much as anything with this outing from Irvin, another bad first inning. Irvin in the top of the first allowed 3 runs on a leadoff double, a walk, and 3 consecutive 1-out RBI singles. And off the Brewers accumulating 25 hits in the win at the Nats on Friday evening, you see them get those hits off Irvin in the first inning, and you say to yourself, oh boy, here we go again. Saturday's game, not as bad as what happened on Friday evening in terms of the Brewers' offensive output. 16-9 loss for the Nats on Friday evening, an 8-2 loss on Saturday. But this overall was another rough outing for Jake Irvin. You look at him now, 23 starts, ERA 4.89, whip 1.33, and the first inning thing continues to be a thing for Irvin.
Yeah, it certainly does. The Brewers' offense was all over him. They jumped out on top. I mean, it was 3-0 before you could really blink and settle in. And Al, you just mentioned his ERA numbers. I mean, when you dive in even closer on it, things are pretty troubling. This season overall, he's still under the threshold of 5. He's at a 4.89 ERA, as you mentioned, in 23 starts. In his last 15 starts, the ERA is at 5.44, and you get into the last 7 starts, 6.75 with a whip of 1.61. Things are going in the wrong direction for Jake Irvin. And, you know, all the other struggles aside for a second with this team and all their deficiencies, I mean, you can't even pretend anymore that he's a poor man's number 2 in the rotation. And on top of many other problems, another problem that's developing for the team.
Yeah, I mean, as this season is going on, we're having more and more questions about who Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker are, and the idea that these are 2 really nice finds by the Nats and that these are 2 guys who can be fixtures in Nats rotations for seasons to come. I don't think we can say that with any kind of certainty. I think each guy is very much pitching for his rotational future the rest of this season. And, you know, with Jake Irvin, he pitched a lot at the major league level in 2023 and 2024. He, of course, has pitched a lot at the major league level this season. The sample size is growing here. I mean, we are getting a sense on what he is and what he is not. And, you know, I think the hope has been, well, at least can he be like a number 4 or number 5? And I suppose you could say yes, and you do need starting pitching depth. The ERAs have not been good for him. If you look at what he's done in each of these 3 seasons at the major league level for the Nats, this season is not trending in a good direction. And to go back to the first inning thing, you know, for the longest while this season, Mitchell Parker was the guy who got the brunt of the first inning shame because he had bad first inning numbers too, and he still does. But his first inning numbers actually have improved over his last few starts. Jake Irvin now has an ERA of 9.39 in first innings here. Parker's is at 6.95. Not good, but that's better than Irvin. Irvin has had a real hard time in these first innings. Now, outside of first innings, he actually has been pretty good this season. So, you know, you could sort of gerrymander this thing and say, well, if not for these first innings, Irvin's having a halfway decent season. Of course, you can't do that. The first inning does count. Irvin has talent. We have talked about him having an odd season in terms of the velocity, which has not been great this season. His strikeouts have not been high this season. But look, if you can get outs, you know, you're certainly willing to put up with velocity that's diminished and a strikeout rate that's slowed down. But Irvin just has not been able to be effective, especially lately. And he's got time to right the ship this season. But right now, you know, save for that outing against the Twins last Sunday afternoon, just things for a good chunk of time here have not been going well for him.
These statements have not been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hello, everyone. For all of you who suffer from calcium oxalate stones, here is some free advice. Tip 1, drink plenty of water. It takes a lot of water to dilute and pass the substances that lead to stones. Tip 2, modify your diet. You'll need to limit sodium, cut your meat.
Tired of difficult lifestyle changes that often don't work? If you suffer from calcium oxalate stones, now there's help. Kidney Cup. Calcium Oxalate Protector. Add Kidney Cop to your routine as a way to potentially reduce or even stop the formation of calcium oxalate stones. Kidney Cop is a dietary supplement developed by doctors and pharmacists. It's been proven in laboratory tests to reduce the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. That's right, 99%. Just take Kidney Cop. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. You can purchase affordable Kidney Cop today by visiting Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com. Yes, you can start enjoying life again. Purchase Kidney Cop at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com today.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now the set. Ogasawara delivers, swinging a line drive left center field toward the gap. That's going to get down and go to the bullpen fence for extra bases. Rounding third is Perkins. He's coming in to score, and pulling in his second with a run-scoring double, and his third hit of the game is Bryce Durang. And the Brewers with back-to-back doubles to start the eighth inning here against Ogasawara. And it's now Milwaukee 6 and Washington 2.
The Nats bullpen in this 8-2 loss to the Brewers on Saturday. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 5 innings. We had a Shinnosuke Ogasawara sighting. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having recalled Ogasawara from AAA-Rochester. He officially allowed 2 runs in 3 innings, but his outing began with 3 scoreless innings. Miguel Cairo, the Nats interim manager, who, by the way, got ejected in this game, more on that in a bit, he had Ogasawara go out there for the top of the 8th, and Ogasawara in that top of the 8th ended up being charged with 2 runs off beginning the inning with a double, an RBI double, and a bunt single. So this is a bad outing in that he allows 2 runs in 3 innings, but I thought actually a lot of good in this outing from Ogasawara, and had he just been able to end on a high note, we would have been singing his praises here with 3 scoreless innings of relief. Orlando Revolta, he in that Brewers 2-run 8th faced 3 batters and got 3 outs, one of which was a 1-out RBI sac fly. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having recalled Revolta from AAA-Rochester. And Jackson Rutledge, another outing, another run. He allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He in the top of the 9th allowed a run on a 1-out single followed by a 1-out RBI double. Do you consider the outing of Shinnosuke Ogasawara to be encouraging, or when it ends up being 2 runs in 3 innings, can you not call the outing encouraging?
Encouraging on multiple fronts. First off, 3 scoreless innings to begin, but also I like that he's being utilized in that role. There's going to be a lot of games where Miguel Cairo is going to have to eat up a lot of innings. So I like him in this spot because I don't want him in the starting rotation, because I want Cade Cavalli to get called up. I don't care how bad the ERA is at Rochester. Sink or swim, let's find out one way or another. So I'm hoping that this is what his role is in these final 2 months of the season.
Perhaps Ogasawara is the new Brad Lord, because Brad Lord was the guy who would profile as someone who could perhaps give you 2 or 3 innings of relief prior to him being thrown back into the rotation. Maybe Ogasawara can fill that role. But yeah, I'm with you. I thought this was an encouraging outing from Ogasawara, and I almost don't blame him for that top of the 8th. I think Miguel Cairo, if he had to do it over again, wouldn't have sent Ogasawara out there for that 8th inning. And it's funny, right? Because Cairo has become known for not sticking with relievers long in games. In this instance, we're actually saying probably for the first time he stuck with a reliever for too long. But hey, that's how it goes. And I understand. It's not like Cairo's working with a bullpen that has had a lot of success here this season. And of course, the bullpen has been depleted big time with the Nats sell-off prior to the trade deadline. Nats offense in this 8-2 loss to the Brewers on Saturday. Not good. Just 2 runs, just 2 hits, just 2 walks, 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The 2 hits, a home run and a single. The Brewers starting pitcher was Brandon Woodruff. He was really good. 2 runs in 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. The bright spot, Robert Hassell III. He is the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 1 for 3 with a 2-run homer. Hassell and a Nats 2-run third, a 1-out full count 2-run homer to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 5-2 despite having been down at 1.12. The homer was impressive when it projected 416 feet per StatCast. So you take a step back and examine Hassell. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having recalled him from AAA-Rochester. He in the game on Friday evening did not start, but came off the bench to play center field. Went 2 for 2 with a double and a 2-run single. And then in this game, he has by far the Nats' biggest hit of the game, a 2-run homer. It's just 2 games back for him at the major league level, but encouraging to see Robert Hassell hitting like this.
There were 2 positives from this loss today, one of which was Ogasawara having the 3 scoreless innings, and the other one was Robert Hassell III homering and keeping this a game. It was 5-0. It felt like it was on its way to another route. The homer made it 5-2, and it was basically 5-2 until the late innings. So, like what I saw there, Robert Hassell III was really raking at Rochester when he was sent back down. It's sort of the exact thing you want to see from someone like that. After he comes up, you see some deficiencies, you send him down for the eventuality of bringing him back up. So you talked about the 3-year anniversary, Al, of this trade, and Hassell was one of the prospects in it, obviously slower developing and less of an impact than some of the other guys in that trade. But this is where we're at with him 3 years in, and I'm looking forward to seeing what his next 2 months are like.
It has been very up and down for Hassell as a prospect, and in terms of like what you realistically are expecting from him. When the trade happened, his stock was very high. He then dealt with injury and some struggles, and so the stock went down. The stock has since come back up. Now, he had his first stint at the major league level here this season. Did not go so well, so you could argue then stock down. Now he's back up, and the stock is back up off what he has done these last few games here. So we're still trying to get a true handle on what Hassell can be, but the guy has a lot of talent for sure, and this is one of these guys who you follow the rest of this season. I hope he's up for good the rest of this season. As I've said, I hope he plays a good bit the rest of this season. Let's really get a picture on what the Nats have in Robert Hassell III. Hassell, Dalen Lyle, Brady House, Jacob Young. Let's continue to see these guys. Dylan Cruz, of course, when he comes back. And let's hopefully end this season with multiple players out of that mix I just mentioned doing well. And at least you can go into the offseason feeling better about some pieces here. Because right now, you feel good about James Wood, CJ Abrams, and Mackenzie Gore. And beyond that, you're not sure what to feel about anybody else at best. Okay, there's hope with these guys, but they have not proven themselves just yet at the major league level. 2 months doesn't, prove things with certainty, but 2 months can obviously provide some real optimism moving forward.
I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but this is exactly why you need to free up the Josh Bell at bats at DH, and with all those young guys you talked about right there, crowded outfield, only 2 months left. Every at bat is crucial in this. I'm on the same exact page with you on that one.
So another player acquired in the Juan Soto trade was, yes, James Wood. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter on Saturday. 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. So another bad game for James Wood, but each of the strikeouts was, shall we say, bogus. Wood in the bottom of the third struck out looking to end the inning. The plate appearance featured 3 called strikes. Now, the called strike has been a bugaboo for James Wood during his recent struggles, but the last of the 3 called strikes was way outside and not at all a strike. A bad call there by the home plate umpire, Chris Guccione. And then Guccione struck again in the bottom of the 6th. Wood struck out swinging, and I say the word swinging that way because I'm saying it in quotation marks.
So now we have a 3-2 pitch. Here it is. Check swing on a ball in the dirt, and the home plate umpire calls him out on a check swing. And Wood can't believe it.
Struck out swinging to end the inning. Wood checked his swing. He so checked his swing on that supposed swing and miss for the strike 3. And Miguel Cairo got tossed. He argued what happened, ended up getting ejected by Guccione, who clearly did not have a great game. Look, James Wood right now is struggling. His struggles go far beyond the errant calls of Chris Guccione, but that was not good work by the home plate umpire, and Wood got victimized not once but twice in this game.
Yeah, the last one was really egregious. It wasn't even close right there. Bad luck for Wood. But man, now let's talk about James Wood. OPS in July, 563. Just 2 homers. Struck out 46% of his at-bats. Struck out half of his at-bats today. You said, 0 for 4 with 2 Ks. And he was at about 30% the first few months of the season. That's typically where it's at. So basically, so far, it seems like a typical James Wood month is striking out 30% of the time, hitting about 6 or 7 homers. And in June, I talked about that 563 OPS in July. In June, it was 938. You said there's very few pieces that the Nats feel good about, but right now, this month, he's not doing well. This is an increasing fire here in the Nats organization, I feel like.
Well, it's bad. Here's the way I look at it. So the MLB regular season is 6 months: April, May, June, July, August, September. James Wood was very good in April, May, and June. He had a really bad July. We have 2 left. If he can do well in August and September, he's essentially 5-1. 5 good months, 1 bad month. You'll take that. You'll accept that. Most players would take that and accept that. The key here is that he has to have a good August. If he has a bad August, and you're talking about 2 consecutive bad months, then all of a sudden you start to look at his season a little differently. Those overall season numbers come down, and you start to view this not as a wretched season, but as, an up and down season, an inconsistent season. It's kind of like the C.J. Abrams 2024 season where, was it a bad season? Overall, no, you really can't say that. That's not fair. But you can't just sit here and call it, a perfectly smooth and successful season for Abrams. He was very up and down as the season went on. And I so don't want that to be the case for James Wood. What we all want is to look back on his July and just say, okay, it was a bad month. It happens. Most guys end up struggling at some point. But so far, he's not looking especially better early in this month of August. And I tell you, this is a real test for the batting coach, Darnell Coles. And this is where you do need good coaching. When James Wood is going well, awesome, okay? Not much work you have to do if you're the batting coach. But when a guy like Wood is struggling like this, what can you as a coach do? And I recognize that coaches realistically can only do so much, but the really good ones can find a way to get through to someone and fix the player. And, with Coles, we've had the conversation many times, but does he have that capability of getting through to Wood, of figuring out a way to get him on track? Because it's not just on Wood to fix this, right? It's primarily on Wood to fix this, but this is why you have a coaching staff, and this is where the hard work comes into play as a coach. It's not about when guys are doing well. It's about when guys are struggling, and how do you fix that? How do you remedy that? And this is a real test here for Darnell Coles. I'm sure he's working hard on this. I'm not trying to say, he's asleep at the wheel on this, but this is an issue now, and this is something that clearly needs to be fixed.
You asked earlier what sort of topics are going to come up at the Nats Chat Hangout at Walters. I anticipate Darnell Coles' name getting brought up more than once. Also, I've said many times I think they should make a change at hitting coach. I've said it for a while. They are objectively not a good hitting team. And now that Mike DiBartolo's day-to-day schedule is a bit slower, I would imagine, in August than it was in July, I hope he seriously takes a few days to look at that particular thing with a fresh set of eyes and with an open schedule and say, all right, do we need to make a change at the hitting coach? And is the main reason why because of James Wood's recent slump?
The only thing I wonder is, because we've already had the massive change with the firings of Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez, are we done with the in-season change? It's a little weird if you fire the GM and the manager and then you fire a coach. You know what I mean? Like, usually the way you do it is you fire the coach and then you fire the manager and then you fire the general manager. In this case, it was they fired the general manager and the manager. And, if they ended up firing the hitting coach after that, that just is so out of the usual order. I mean, personally, I think all these guys are going to be gone come the offseason. So, there may just be a thing of, let's just get through the rest of this season and move on. But there's no doubt, when it comes to a James Wood, when it comes to a Dylan Cruz, when it comes to these, potential foundational pieces for this team, you want them always getting good coaching. You want these guys getting the best possible coaching because these are really talented players. They need to pan out, and the kind of coaching they get can be the difference between them panning out and not panning out. Now, James Wood, I think, is a little different because he's so gifted and already has had the success that he has had. But, when it comes to someone like, say, a Dalen Lyle or Robert Hassell III, perhaps coaching can prove to be the difference in terms of whether those guys make it or not with the Nats.
Well, one thing I think is different, though, in this case, why I think it's worth making another change after you did a much bigger organizational change last month, is that typically when a last place team makes a change at coach or manager, the next guy that comes in is a bit of a different personality and brings a different vibe. That does not seem to be the case with Miguel Cairo. So I think another change within the staff is more worthy, given how similar Cairo seems like to his predecessor.
Yeah, Davey Martinez 2.0, as we have said.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel.
Primera y segunda, lanza, compró, el batazo por el lado izquierdo, atrás el dinero, la bola se va, se va, se va, se va, se fue la fruta. Home run, James Wood. 7-0 están ganando los nacionales a los Cardenales de San Luis.
Ellos estaban pidiendo que rompa el hielo y que anote su primer cuadrangular. Por fin ha llegado. Aquí está presente. ¡Woo!
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
These statements have not been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hello, everyone. For all of you who suffer from calcium oxalate stones, here is some free advice. Tip 1, drink plenty of water. It takes a lot of water to dilute and pass the substances that lead to stones. Tip 2, modify your diet. You'll need to limit sodium, cut your meat.
Tired of difficult lifestyle changes that often don't work? If you suffer from calcium oxalate stones, now there's help. Kidney Cop, Calcium Oxalate Protector. Add Kidney Cop to your routine as a way to potentially reduce or even stop the formation of calcium oxalate stones. Kidney Cop is a dietary supplement developed by doctors and pharmacists. It's been proven in laboratory tests to reduce the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. That's right, 99%. Just take Kidney Cop. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. You can purchase affordable Kidney Cop today by visiting Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com. Yes, you can start enjoying life again. Purchase Kidney Cop at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com today.
Pitch on the way, swung on, line to right field deep. Lyle going back, still back, and it's he can't get it over his glove, off the wall in play. Over comes Hassell to pick it up in right field and get it in. Rounding third, coming home is Yelich, and he slides in ahead of the throw. And the Brewers add another run here in the top of the ninth inning. Now Milwaukee 8 and Washington 2.
All right, you can always email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We've gotten a lot of good emails here lately in terms of what's going on with the Nats, in terms of things that have come up on this podcast. We got this from Mark Gunther. Writes Mark, I'm a longtime listener and big fan of the podcast. Your evaluation of the team, players, and front office is nearly always interesting and insightful. But Al, I have to take issue with a comment you've made several times in recent days when you've said there's no reason not to trade any of the players on expiring contracts. From purely a baseball standpoint, you're right. But as a season ticket holder since 2008 with a half dozen games ahead in August and September, I strongly disagree. I pay full price for tickets, and I think that the Nats are obligated to put a competitive team on the field. I was okay with seeing Josh Bell and Kyle Finnegan go because they should have some value on the trade market. But man, it's hard to watch the Nats play the Brewers. What a contrast. And it's not like the Brewers have a big payroll. Thanks again for the podcast. It's part of my morning routine. Well, thank you very much, Mark. So first of all, I think every single ticket purchasing Nationals fan right now deserves a medal for investing hard-earned money in this team. I have nothing but respect and admiration for the ticket-paying Nats fan who is paying his or her hard-earned money to watch this team, is enduring this season, and certainly if you have been a ticket-paying Nats fan for years now, especially during this rebuild that refuses to end, I think you especially deserve a medal. So people like Mark, I salute you. People like our friend Val, who continues to go to not only Nats home games, but Nats road games, and she proudly wears her Nats Chat podcast t-shirt, I salute you. I'm not in the business of telling people how to be fans, and I think especially with the Nats right now, we don't need any lecturing on what you should think, how you should think. I think we're all different with this stuff. I would just say this, though. Them not trading or trading certain players, them trying to win versus not trying to win, where that has gotten this team is it having the second worst record in the National League and the second worst run differential in the National League. Personally, I view everything big picture at this point. I think the relevance of this season is gone in terms of wins and losses. I think it's all about the future. It's all about the bigger picture, especially when you consider that there is seismic change that could be coming this offseason. Like, we've already had the massive change with Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez being fired. There could be even more change coming from a standpoint of if someone externally is brought in to run baseball operations, that person may have a vision that shakes up everything. You could see a bunch of firings in terms of people in the front office right now. You clearly could see a bunch of firings. We expect a bunch of firings with the manager/coaching staff. We could see a major roster shakeup too. There are a lot of guys on this team right now, people who we thought might be here for years to come, who could be gone come next season. So there's a lot that is up in the air right now. There's a lot that is uncertain, but I think this is what matters at this point. It is the bigger picture. And so if you're paying your hard-earned money to go to these games over the course of the rest of this season, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not here to tell you how to feel. I'm just telling you from my perspective, it's very difficult for me to get sucked into, did they win this game or lose this game in the middle of August, in the middle of September, in a season that has just been so disappointing and in a season that has raised so many bigger picture questions. I almost feel silly at this point getting caught up in whether they win or lose these games because the bigger picture just matters so much more.
I'm with you on big picture. I view things... How will this help the franchise on October 1st? Or how will this help the franchise on opening day 2026? Because I think there's a path to win there. So I'm with you on how to view things. In terms of Mark's email, I will admit I had responded to Mark, so I should share here what I wrote to him privately. And that is that though I totally hear him on the argument with the obligation that you should go and win, I'm paying full freight, I view it as buyer beware. That's how last place baseball works in the major leagues in August and September. And that some of these guys, like the relievers, for example, the trade with the Angels, that trade does not make the Nats better for these final 50 plus games of the season. Their bullpen is not as good without those two arms. But the two guys that got back are on the team come, next season. So to me, for what's better for October 1st, that trade was a better decision. And so I think you sort of unfortunately have to swallow it a little bit with seeing a weaker team on the field. With that, though, I do feel that all 9 guys on the field that day should give their absolute hardest. And that, to me, is where the deal sort of comes together between fan and organization.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I mean, if you are paying money to go to these games, there is an excitement, there is an appeal, I think, to watching younger players who could be pieces here moving forward, right? So you're watching a Robert Hassell III, you're watching a Dalen Lyle, you're watching a Dylan Cruz once he's back. And that is, I think, exciting if they're doing well. And that also is meaningful, Like Josh Bell is still on the team. If Josh Bell plays well the rest of this season, that's swell, okay? But that doesn't mean anything in the bigger picture. And that's why A, I wanted him to be traded, and B, I don't want him being an everyday player the rest of this season, because even if he does well, it doesn't mean anything. That's the point. Now, look, if you're a huge Josh Bell fan and you really get your jollies out of him doing well, again, I'm not here to tell you how to be a fan. I'm just telling you from my perspective, I don't see meaning in it beyond this season. And as Tim just said, in a lot of ways, it's about October 1st. It's about what is beyond this season, not what is within this season, with the exception of how the young players do. That does matter. And if the young players do well and the Nats win, great. I'd rather the young players do well and the Nats lose than the young players do poorly and the Nats win. Like, that to me would kind of summarize my philosophy here. It's all about the young pieces and how they do the rest of this season, given the state of this team. We got this email from Kelly. Writes Kelly, thanks for sharing the info about the deferred payments as part of Kyle Finnegan's contract. Now that he has been traded, is his new team on the hook for these payments, or is there some prorated way that the new team and the Nats split those deferred payments? You speculated that maybe there is a cash flow problem with the Lerners, and that is why they defer the payments. It made me wonder if the deferred payment was a way for them to sign Finnegan for the season with the hope that either A, he and the team do well, in which case it was worth the money, or B, if they flip him at the trade deadline, then another team would end up paying him, but that depends on who is on the hook for paying him. Thanks. Love the podcast. Well, thank you very much for the email, Kelly. So, yeah, brought this up on the last installment of the podcast, or the report from Nats insider Andrew Golden of the Washington Post, that the Nats had deferred money in the mere 1 year, $6 million contract to which the team re-signed Kyle Finnegan a few months back. So here's the deal per Golden. The Tigers, to whom Finnegan was traded, they take on the prorated portion of each deferred payment. So about a third of each $2 million payment. The way the deferred money works in the Finnegan deal, the Nats deferred Finnegan's 1 year, $6 million contract this year, $2 million in 2027, $2 million in 2029. So Detroit takes on a prorated portion of each payment, about a third of each $2 million payment. So that answers Kelly's question. And we all would say, we don't know the specifics of the learner's personal finances, okay? It's none of our business. But when you're deferring money in a 1 year, $6 million contract, like I said on the last installment of the podcast, I don't know how you don't wonder about what everyone has been wondering for years. And that is there a cash flow problem with the learners, given that their base business, commercial real estate, really struggled off the COVID shutdowns? And the shutdowns now are a few years back. We have a new economy now. COVID in a lot of ways forever changed our economy when it comes to people working from home and office buildings being left vacant. So, I think you have to wonder if there is a cash issue with the Lerner ownership group, and deferring money in a 1 year, $6 million contract for a reliever who you non-tendered, I think only furthers those questions.
I can't stress my amateur status enough on this sort of topic. But yeah, clearly, I work from home, you work from home, countless people listening, countless people who did not work from home in 2019. We all go to various office buildings for various reasons, and we see that there are fewer tenants in the buildings than there used to be. So I feel like we all could do the back of the napkin math on that. But any further that I get into that, I'd be making things up.
The Lerners made so much of their money on malls and on commercial real estate buildings. We all know what has happened with the mall over the last 10, 15 years, and we have seen in recent years what has happened with the commercial real estate building. I can't imagine things have gone as well as the Lerner family would want from a business standpoint in recent years. Now, does that mean that they're in dire straits financially? No, of course not. But perhaps it has led to some cash flow problems. And, this has come up multiple times in recent years. This is not the first time that this concern has been raised. Keep the feedback coming. We enjoy the conversation. It is a pleasure to hear from you and hear your thoughts. And we get so many smart emails and messages. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on X at @nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at natschatpodcast. We have a website you could check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. We have Game 3 of this series for the Nats against Milwaukee Sunday afternoon, 1:35. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Here's the set. 3-2 from Woodruff to Hassell. Swinging a fly ball, well hit right field. Way back it goes. This one's going, and long gone. Off the facing of the second deck. Home run number 2 in the major leagues for Robert Hassell III. Puts the Nats on the board. Hassell, since coming back from AAA, is 3 for 3 with a double, a 2-run single, and a long 2-run homer.
Bubba Wallace here with Tyler Reddick. You know what's more nerve-wracking than waiting for qualifying results?
Waiting for the green flag to drop.
Instead of pacing, you rev up with Chumba Casino's weekly new releases.
It's like a fresh set of tires for your brain.
Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21+. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.